This is the number one thing that no one seems to talk about when it comes to crank length. So after 38 years of cycling, I finally changed my crank length to 165. I've ran 170s essentially all my life. Assuming that my legs, the bones themselves, have not changed in length, it should always be the same, right? Well, the reality is, as we get older, our body starts to change. And one of the advantages of changing crank length is it reduces pinching in the front of the hip. There's a condition called a femoral acetabular impingement, FAI. And what happens is, it's a natural occurrence for people that have deep hip sockets. As we get older into our 40s and 50s and 60s, we start to lose cartilage. And this cartilage loss is essentially considered normal. It's just part of aging, like getting gray hair or wrinkles. So what happens is, when you change the crank length, it actually reduces that pinching. Now, how it does that is, when you go from 170 to 165, for example, the pedal distance from here to the top of the saddle, you're going to keep normal. But if you shorten the crank length by 5 millimeters, now the crank would be up here at the bottom, which means you have to raise the saddle 5 millimeters. So essentially, as you're pedaling your bike, the distance between the saddle and the crank at the bottom of the pedal stroke would be exactly the same. But what's interesting is, as the pedal comes up, what happens is the crank, remember, is 5 millimeters shorter. So your pedal is down here. But don't forget, you just raise your saddle 5 millimeters to accommodate for the leg length at the bottom of the pedal stroke. So now, at the top, you have actually gained 10 millimeters of distance where your thigh does not have to come up into your chest. This reduces the pain in the femur and the acetabulum, thus not causing pain, number one, and compensation reactions. This is the number one thing that no one seems to talk about when it comes to crank length. Everybody's concerned about power and torque. Well, the reality is, when you're 40, 50 years old, if you're getting pain, who cares how much power and torque you can produce? You can't ride if you're in pain, and you're going to end up with a hip surgery. So my advice, as patients get older, is to drop the distance at the top of the pedal stroke. And the only way to do that is to get shorter cranks. If you thought this video was interesting, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I have a Patreon account. If you join the Patreon account, what ends up happening is, you can ask questions and I'll make videos specifically for you. If you've changed your crank length, let me know in the comment section. If you refuse to change your crank length, let me know in the comment section. I'd be interested in reading why.